Hello, TFR Nation. Gabe.
And Nick.
Oh, that's right. And we are here today to bring you guys right off the presses. This is probably one of the quicker, I would say one of the quicker reviews, spoiler review. Okay, so we'll let you know when the spoilers are coming. But for the brand new film on HBO Max, also released in theaters simultaneously, The Little Things, starring Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and of course my boy Jared Leto. Nick, I want to start off right away and ask you one question. Why does everybody hate Jared Leto? All right. The guy should be a national treasure. All right. I'm telling you, he was amazing in Suicide Squad, and they chopped up all his work. Okay. This guy, when they first announced this film, I didn't know anything about this film. And I said, we got 3 Oscar winners here. Okay. 3 Oscar winners. I'm sold. Give me the film. Before I knew anything about it, I'm sold. And literally, we do not see Jared Leto for like half of the film. It's a 2-hour movie, 2-hour film, right? 2 hours and 7 minutes. I don't think we actually see Jared Leto for the first hour of the film. Why does the world hate Jared Leto? Explain. I don't understand.
Maybe it's one of those things where I don't want to say too much of something is too much of a good thing is too much. I don't want to say that. But maybe it's one of those things where it's like he's so fantastic that you want to make sure, like you want your audience to wait for it, and you want to use him sparingly just to take advantage of that. The good thing is about Jared Leto, like he said, all spoilers all over the place. One of the good things about Jared Leto in this performance, because he is absolutely fantastic. In my opinion, he gives the best performance, and he has probably the least to work with. The thing about him is once we get him, then we have him for the rest of the film. He sticks around. He's like that family member that won't leave your house. Like, you've been here for 3 days. You were saying you're going to stop by and pick up some sugar. You've been here for 3 days. Like, he's there the entire movie after he shows up. He's so great with his, the way he's speaking, the way he moves around. He takes his time with everything. The only problem I had with the performance, was that weak pillow they called a stomach that they had for him. They want to try to give him a gut. That was the fakest looking gut of all time. That's a small little nitpick in my opinion. He was absolutely fantastic. You mentioned Denzel, Rami Malek. They were all fantastic, right? I think Jared Leto was way up here in my opinion because he had that, like Gabe loves the villains. He had that villain role and he played it very, very well. But don't take anything away from Rami Malek and how tense he was the entire time. And you can tell with his character and him being laser focused that he's a deke in training. And then you got Denzel Washington. I love Denzel Washington. Who doesn't? I think that this is a great performance by him. People might disagree for this or that. I think he was great in that role of someone who's trying to get away from something that has taken over his entire family and his life, where he just said goodbye to everything. Basically, I'm going to lose everything to solve this case. Still didn't get that closure. And then he's like that drug addict that when he gets a chance and he gets a taste of a little more of this case that could be connected to that, he can't stay away from it. I think he's great in that avenue. Absolutely. But let me end my initial thoughts with this. I did not love this movie. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Gabe, what are some of your initial thoughts on this film?
Well, here's the thing. This movie's been kicked around for a while. All right. You mentioned that to me. This is almost a period piece, right? Because it takes place during the 90s or whatnot. But that's when they initially were trying to push
exactly.
The film. And
they didn't change the setting. Let's just keep it with the 90s.
Let's just keep it with the 90s because they couldn't get this thing made. All right. And then, of course, director John Lee Hancock steps up to get this thing made. You get 3 big stars to go ahead and sign on to this thing. And John Lee Hancock is actually the writer as well. So he's been trying to push this thing for a while. All right, guys. Finally gets it through. I think that the biggest problem with this movie is that back in the 90s, this movie would have crushed, even the early 2000s. But I think that he tried to do like the M. Night Shyamalan or we're so ready for the twist ending already that we're expecting it, all right? Mm-hmm. And to me, it was the ending that did not land, okay? Because I was like, all right, well, they try to leave it ambiguous. We've seen so many films like that already where they leave the ending ambiguous. If this had come out in 92, 93, 96, okay, whatever. 99, we hadn't seen that yet. But now it's like I'm expecting that. Okay, I'll give you case in point. The Bourne Identity, right? Everybody was like, "Oh, the Bourne Identity, this thing is groundbreaking." The Bourne Identity was basically the Long Kiss Goodnight. People forgot about that because it was ahead of its time. But when the Long Kiss came out, the Goodnight came out with Samuel L. Jackson and Gina Davis, right? The spy that has the amnesia, whatever. It was like, wow, this is groundbreaking. So it's like retreading that idea. And to me, it was the same thing as like No Country for Old Men, right? This film was the acting was so great. The storyline itself was so because they expected the end to pay off so big. And to me, it just didn't. So I agree with you there. But the acting performances, Jared Leto plays, I think maybe in life he is a real creep. I heard some of the stuff that he did on Suicide Squad where people were upset because he was sending his cast members like dead rat. He got so into that role of the Joker. And I don't think you could just pretend, bro. He played like he was a cross between like a pedophile here and like a serial killer and that creepy guy. He was just so creepy in this film. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. He was masterful, where really he doesn't do much. And at the end, again, spoiler alert, is he or isn't he the killer? Who knows? But he's just so creepy. He deserves to die. You're like, oh man, dude, you know what I mean? Like, his performance was amazing, but I think that they were planning to wow us with this ending. And I'm sorry, I've seen this ending 30 times already in the last, since the 90s, since when this film was supposed to come out. So that part, it did not hit. As far as Denzel's concerned, you're right. Denzel normally carries the film, right? And the fact that we could say, wow, man, Jared Leto's performance was really, really good. And Rami Malek was also really, really good. Like, I don't know. You expect Denzel to eat everybody else up, right? That didn't happen in this film. Maybe by design, who knows? But that did not happen in this film. And I don't know. Is Denzel? He looked really old too. And this, did you notice that? I get
that's what by design. That was by design because Denzel's usually always fit, even in his. We see him in The Equalizer, right? This guy you don't want to mess with. I think that was by design. A guy who is just, you see at the very beginning, he's getting mad at someone like, oh, now you show up after a few weeks. He's talking to this stray dog or whatever. Like, that's his family right now, is that stray dog on that double wide in that land. He's lost everything. So I think that definitely was by design, 100%. Talking about actor, I think the acting in this is absolutely fantastic all the way around. Even the supporting, we got Chris Bauer playing Sal, Michael Hyatt playing the what they call that? The mortician doctor. I'm not sure what they call that, but the person that does all the autopsies and whatnot.
Yes.
Natalie Morales as his partner, as Detective Jamie. She did great. And Isabel as Rami Malek's wife. Just name a few people. They all did fantastic. The supporting cast, the main cast, all across the board. I'm going to get into right now my biggest problem with this. You mentioned the ending. I absolutely hated the ending. Okay. But I'm the kind of guy, and I'm not going to hide it, I like closure. I do not like an ending that doesn't end it. And for example, 3 Billboards Out of Ebbing, Missouri, I think is what it's called. Fantastic acting, fantastic movie until the ending. And I hated the ending because you go through a whole journey in a movie. I want to have an ending. I just do. So it's always going to tick me off. Christopher Nolan gets away with it because he's just so smart and so clever with it. And we get, for the most part, like a 95% closure, but there's always 5% that we don't get closure on. But this one did not give me any closure whatsoever. I'm not going to lie. When we see the berets, was that what's called, like the berets, like the little clip? When we see that, I had to look it up afterwards to remember what the connection was because it was said so quickly about how the girl that was jogging that got taken by this serial killer guy, that he had taken the beret. And so Denzel buys a new fresh pack, sends it to Rami Malek's character so that he can get closure. That was a good character moment right there. But it took me, I had to go look that up because I didn't pick up on that earlier in the film. Maybe if we rewatch this film over and over, which I'm not sure why I would, but I did not like the ending whatsoever. And the biggest reason why is this show, besides the acting, there wasn't a lot of substance to this movie that called for it to be a movie, a feature film. I think it would have done much better on HBO as a series where we can flesh out a little bit more. But in that case, they still would give us that horrible ending where we don't get the real revelation of what's going on. We just assume, and that would drive me crazy. This reminds me, honestly, like it should have been one of the seasons on a show called The Sinner with Jessica Biel and with Bill Pullman. If you haven't seen it yet, especially the second season, it's creepy, but it's also fantastic. And Bill Pullman, he plays that Deke character almost to the T. And I know this has been around, floating around Hollywood forever, but Bill Pullman gets attached to this town for a small little errand, and he gets roped into investigating, and he doesn't have jurisdiction there. And he's so invested, and he's willing to give away his entire family to figure out the ending. That's what this movie reminded me of, was The Sinner. And it probably would have played well on TV, but they probably still wouldn't have given us an ending. And I just don't get it. Gabe, what is the point of having it? Is it just for art's sake that we have an ending where we don't even have any clues? We don't even have any clues as to who the killer was.
I can tell you what they were going for, and they're trying to basically tell you, because I know this for a fact. Again, people who follow our other channels know I got a lot of family in law enforcement, and first and foremost, okay, despite what people may think and what you watch on television, you're getting a small sample size of what law enforcement really is. Do you got bad cops? Yes, just like you got bad apples in every bunch. But for the majority, most cops who go through their whole career, especially B cops, without ever discharging their firearm, let alone killing somebody. And once they do, it is something that sits with them. That's a hard thing to deal with as a human being. Okay, and what they're going for is the ambiguity that most cops deal with, where think about how many people they lock up, but is that guy really guilty? He may or may not have been, you know what I'm saying? But this is what the evidence shows, but I don't have 100% proof, but this is what this is where all the threads are. And think about the people who have been wrongfully imprisoned and all the evidence led up to them, but then you find out they're exonerated because of some type of DNA or something else. You know what I mean? And I think that's what they were going for, showing you the trepidation that law enforcement has to go through, because they're trying to do their best job and they're trying to be honorable about it. But a lot of times, you know what? It consumes them because they don't know. They cannot 100% know. Rami Malek, I think that was there's a part right at the very end where he's already, unfortunately, spoiler alerts for anybody who haven't seen this yet, Rami Malek ends up actually killing Jared Leto's character. And he is like pleading with Denzel, but he was our guy, right? He was our guy. I'm sure he was our guy. He's trying to convince himself, because he's like, if not, I just killed an innocent man. And whether you kill him or you lock him up, you don't think that does stays with police officers in the back of their mind. Like, man, did I do the right thing? There's this episode on the show called Brooklyn Nine-Nine where Jake Peralta had gone to jail because he was wrong. This is a comedy, but he was wrongfully accused and he gets out. So now as a cop, he's scared to pull the trigger because he was wrongfully accused of a crime and in prison. So he's not sure of his decisions. And he said, before it used to be just black and gray, guilty or innocent. Black and white, guilty or innocent. Now there's this shade of gray area. And that's what cops live in, man. It's the shade of gray. Unless you got an eyeball witness and it's on tape or whatever, you're dealing with circumstantial evidence. You're dealing with threads that you're pulling at. You're dealing with things. And sometimes that's all you have. And I think Denzel gave him the beret at the end to try to appease him in his mind that, yeah, you did the right thing, because Denzel, as we saw, lost his family, lost his job, had a heart attack following what he did. And that's, I'm not going to spoil that, but that's part of the storyline here. So he didn't want the same to happen to Rami Malek's character. But man, why they're doing this? Can I be honest with you? Maybe this would not have been green lit if in another time, but it finally got green lit because law enforcement has taken such a negative, you know what I mean, with all the defund the police and all. Maybe they're trying to now humanize them again. You normally see the cops as bad guys here all the time in shows, or even if they're good guys, the bumbling buffoons or whatever, and they're trying to humanize them and show them, hey, they're people too, and this affects them long term. I think that might have been what got this thing greenlit, to be honest with you, because right now, especially in our country, there's a big referendum going on with law enforcement. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I hear you. And I was thinking about that. Like, we we feel at the end of the movie the way Deke has felt like for the last several years as he has not been able to get closure. And I mean, he's willing to break into the guy's house. He's willing to do whatever it takes to just to get something. And I will say for the ending, the one thing I liked when they show underneath the rug, that little hidden compartment in the ground, I was thinking to myself, really? That probably would have been the first place Deke would have checked the first time he was in the house. There's just going to be a hidden compartment, and here's going to be all the keepsakes of all the kills that this guy had. It was too easy. And then we find out, at least we think we find out because that's what they show us, it was empty. There's a little box in there, and it's just completely empty. And I can't remember because there was one point where he was in the house previously where he was going through stuff, and he was just finding papers, like newspapers, clippings of these murders because the Sharma, I think his name is, Jared Leto's character, he is just I'm a crime buff. What can I say? He's a creep. He's just getting off on looking at these pictures of these dead women. Like he is just such a creepy guy, but he comes off to me as a wannabe. He already had confessed of one thing that he didn't do because he just wanted to get that kind of attention. It was like Son of Sam or whatever. But the thing, so I liked that it wasn't so easy. But I love cop shows, I love mystery shows, I love detective shows, I should say, where there's different like breadcrumbs throughout the show, and then you get to find out who it was at the end. They were doing different breadcrumbs. Denzel was going into the apartment of the girl that got killed and looking to the refrigerator and talking to the landlord. The landlord looks like, I guess she like stole the beer from the fridge because she wanted the free beer. That was kind of messed up. But you're going through all these things that he's doing and investigating, and we find out at the end of the movie that we don't get closure on that. That's what drives me crazy. Why string us along just to give us a message that, hey, this is how police feel when they can't get a case clear? I don't get it. It's obviously a purposeful decision because you could have written an ending in there if you wanted to. I don't know. For me, you string me along and then I don't get too much closure. I'm so sick, and I've never injured someone, let alone killed someone before. But how many times we see these kind of movies where you get hit in the head one time and boom, you're just done. Like Rami Malek must have a serious, his left swing or right swing with that little shovel to take this guy out in one shot. I was shocked that they took him out like that. But there's a lot of things I like about this. There's just not a lot of substance for this movie. I like the fact that when Denzel, he goes off and does all his things to go into the apartment and bag everything up, and he comes back to pick up Rami and tell him what to go on. Rami did not even bother burying the body. He's just digging more holes because he's convinced that this body's got to be here somewhere. I liked that commitment to those characters. I like the supporting cast. I just felt like there wasn't enough substance for us to be dragged along for 2 hours without a lot going on, really. There's really not too much going on besides a character study. And then, I don't know. So I'm ready to grade it. What about you, Gabe?
I am as well. I got to say, this is the first time, and I struggled with this. This is the first time that I've got a film with such huge actors that I was so excited for, and I was absolutely let down by the end. I still think this is crazy. If this wasn't January, which, this is where they drop the garbage movies, you know what I mean? Right. But if this was we're closer to like Oscar season, bro, I'm telling you, Jared Leto's performance is so creepy. He could get supported for Best Supporting Actor. People will forget about this film by Oscar season. But this is one of the creepiest, and like you said, nothing happened. He literally did nothing. He didn't have to kill one person for you to feel like, oh my gosh, you know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm going to give this thing a C+, you know what I mean? C+ is the highest grade. I wanted to try to give it a B-, man. But like I said, I just think the story's unfinished and I didn't get any closure. Like you said, for 2 hours plus, you should have given me more. You should have given me more Leto, period, because he was amazing in this film. So I'm going to give it a C+. Nick?
People have been following us for a while. They're gonna hate me because I'm gonna take the same exact rating. It seems lazy, but I honestly, that's how I feel about it. The acting is so superb that it definitely deserves to be in a B category at least. But the ending really killed it for me. The lack of substance killed it for me. The fact that there was some sequences where I wasn't really sure why we're here so long, what's going on. Maybe I'm just not smart enough. I did like the writing. I love the dialogue. I love the things, like the random weird things that Jared Leto's character would say. I can't think of him from the top of my head right now, but he was cracking me up, as creepy as he was.
How's the trunk space? I love that. How's the trunk space? He's a nut.
Dude, I mean, there's just so many things that showed how obsessed Deke is, where he's taking the pizza, for crying out loud, and he's going to Michael Hyatt's character, and he's like, "Hey, you know, let's measure the teeth and let's see if it's the same from the Pete." I mean, he is so ingrained in trying to do it. He's still in the trash. There's so many things that are interesting, but for me, it would just be an interesting TV series, not a feature film. That's why I've got to give it a C+. Let us know, ladies and gentlemen, are we being too harsh on this? Are you sitting there saying, no way, this is an A easy just for the acting alone? We take into account as many different things, and at the end of the day, when you're grading a movie, it's how you left it. How did it leave you when you left it? And I wasn't really mad. I kind of felt like, not complete. That's our review, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching this. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to get in that comment section. Tell us what you think about this. We appreciate it. Until next time.
This is the way.